Tonight, we leave the modern world behind for the quiet of the Middle Ages. Close your eyes and listen. Backslash and you are back in time, safe and warm. Let the story begin. Backslash and the pale, gray light of the Roman dawn filters through the small, high window of your sleeping quarters, casting long and motionless shadows across the cool earthen floor. You rise slowly, your movements heavy and deliberate, as the world outside remains draped in a profound and heavy silence. You reach for your tunic, the coarse wool rasping softly against your skin, smelling faintly of wood smoke and the dry, herbal scent of pressed lavender. As you pull the fabric over your head, you feel the familiar weight of your belt, laden with the tools of your trade-thee iron rod, the bronze gauge, the stylus, and the wax tablet. Each item has its place, and you touch them one by one, grounding yourself in the repetitive geometry of your morning routine. The air is cool and thin, carrying the damp promise of the morning mist. And as you step out into the street, the cobbles beneath your sandals are slick with a fine, translucent dew. The city is a ghost of itself at this hour, a collection of silent stone facades and shuttered doorways, and the only sound is the rhythmic, hollow tap of your own footsteps echoing against the walls. The world is quiet, and you are a part of its quietude. You begin the long walk toward the outskirts, where the great aqueduct, the Aqua Claudia, waits for you like a slumbering giant of stone and mortar. As you approach the massive arches, they rise out of the fog, their travertine blocks stacked with a precision that defies the ages, stretching off into the distance until they are swallowed by the gray horizon. You reach the base of a service tower, and your hand finds the familiar rough texture of the stone as you begin the ascent. The stairs are narrow and steep, winding upward in a tight spiral that leaves the world below behind. With every step, the air grows cooler, and the scent of damp masonry becomes more pronounced, a mix of wet lime, ancient dust, and the deep green smell of moss clinging to the shaded crevices. You climb slowly, one foot after another, the muscles in your thighs burning with a dull, rhythmic ache that feels like a constant, grounding companion. The stone walls press in close, their coolness radiating against your shoulders, and the only light comes from the narrow slits in the masonry, casting bars of silver across the dust motes dancing in the air. When you finally reach the summit, emerging onto the narrow ledge beside the Specus, the sound of the water finds you. It is not a sudden noise, but a deep, resonant vibration that seems to rise from the very bones of the earth. The water within the channel is a dark, rushing torrent, a captive river flowing with a singular, relentless purpose. You stand for a moment, the spray from the channel misting against your face, each tiny droplet a cold prickle of reality against your skin. The roar is a constant, low-frequency hum that vibrates through the soles of your sandals and settles in your chest. A white noise that drowns out all thought and leaves only the present moment. You begin your walk along the narrow stone ledge, your body leaning slightly toward the inner wall, the wind from the heights tugging gently at the hem of your tunic with a soft, persistent insistence. The stone beneath you is gray and weathered, marked by the passage of centuries, and you watch the water as it surges past, a ribbon of silver and shadows. You unfasten the iron rod from your belt, its weight cold and solid in your hand. This is the slow work of the morning. You lean over the rushing water, tapping the interior walls of the channel with the metal tip. The clink. The clink. The clink. The sound is sharp and rhythmic, punctuating the heavy drone of the water. You are listening for the subtle change in tone that signals a hollow space or a thinning of the stone. You move with a glacial pace, inspecting every joint and every seam. When you find a buildup of sinter, the white, crusty calcium deposits left behind by the water, you use the rod to gently probe its thickness. The smell here is metallic and sharp, the scent of minerals and wet rock, and the humidity is so thick it feels as though you are breathing the water itself. You record your findings on the wax tablet, the stylus moving with a soft, scratching sound as it carves into the dark, smooth surface. The wax smells of honey and old sunlight, a warm contrast to the cold, damp environment of the high arches. As the sun climbs higher, though still obscured by a thin veil of clouds, you reach a regulation station. Here, the water is channeled through a bronze gauge, a heavy, ornate plate with precisely calibrated apertures. You kneel on the damp stone, the moisture soaking through the knees of your tunic, and you observe the flow. The water swirls in intricate, hypnotic patterns as it passes through the bronze, creating small eddies and whirlpools that catch the dim light. You measure the height of the water against the marks on the gauge, your eyes following the silver line of the surface with unwavering focus. The world is narrowed down to this single point of contact: the water, the bronze, and the measurement. You adjust the flow, the metal wheels turning with a slow, grinding resistance that sends a shiver of friction up your arms. Once satisfied, you reach into your satchel and retrieve a series of colored flags. You unfurl a pale blue one, its fabric snapping softly in the wind, and secure it to a pole to signal the repair crews far below. You watch the flag flutter, a small spark of color against the vast, gray expanse of the sky. At midday, you find a small alcove where the wind is blocked by a protruding buttress. You sit on the stone, your legs dangling over the edge of the world, and retrieve a piece of stale bread from your pouch. The bread is hard and dry, tasting of coarse grain and salt, and you chew it slowly, savoring the simple, repetitive motion. Far below, the city of Rome is a miniature landscape of red-tiled roofs and narrow, winding streets. You watch the tiny figures of people moving like ants through the forums, their lives governed by a frenetic energy that feels entirely alien to you up here. Up on the Aqua Claudia, time does not move in minutes, but in the steady, unchanging flow of the water. The wind carries the distant, muffled sounds of the Cydia dog barking, the faint ring of a blacksmith's hammer, but they are softened by the height, transformed into a gentle, melodic hum. You feel safe and warm in your solitude, a sentinel of the heights, watching the world go by from a place of absolute stillness. The afternoon brings you to a section of the aqueduct where the channel disappears into a narrow access tunnel. You must descend from the ledge and crawl into the darkness, the space so tight that the stone presses against your back and chest simultaneously. The air inside is warm and suffocatingly humid, smelling of ancient earth and stagnant moisture. The sound of the water is deafening here, amplified by the enclosed space into a roar that vibrates through your very teeth. You move on your hands and knees, feeling the slick, slimy texture of the algae on the floor, your fingers searching for cracks in the darkness. Every movement is slow, every breath is measured. You are in the heart of the machine, a small, breathing part of a vast, unthinking system. When you finally emerge back into the open air, the light feels blindingly bright, and the cool wind is a sudden, refreshing benediction against your overheated skin. As dusk begins to settle over the Campagna, the sky turning a deep, bruised purple, you begin your long descent. Your legs shake with a fine, rhythmic tremor from the hours of standing on narrow ledges, and your ears ring with the ghost of the water's roar. You climb down the spiral stairs, the darkness pooling in the center of the tower, your hand sliding along the smooth, cold stone of the central pillar. With every step downward, the sound of the water fades, replaced by the lengthening shadows and the evening chorus of crickets in the grass below. When your sandals finally touch the soft, dry earth at the base of the arches, the world feels strangely still, as if the earth itself has stopped breathing. You walk back toward your quarters, a lone shadow in the gloaming, your mind empty of all but the memory of the water's weight. You wonder with a peaceful, detached curiosity if tomorrow will be the same, and the thought brings a sense of profound, unshakable calm. The world is quiet, the water flows, and you are tired. You wake before the sun touches Rome, when the air still holds the chill of night, and the city sleeps in layers of stone and shadow. Your hands find the rough wool of your tunic in the darkness, the fabric stiff with yesterday's dried spray, and you pull it over your head slowly, methodically, feeling the coarse weave scratch against your shoulders. The world is quiet, safe and still. You eat a handful of dried figs from a clay bowl, their sweetness coating your tongue, and drink water that tastes of minerals and distance, thinking of the miles it has traveled to reach your cup. The streets are empty as you walk toward the Aqua Claudia, your sandals scuffing against worn paving stones that hold the coolness of night. You can smell the bakeries beginning their work, that warm yeast scent drifting through shuttered windows, mixing with the ever-present smell of smoke from 1,000 household fires. The aqueduct rises before you as dawn breaks, tier upon tier of massive arches climbing toward the pale sky, each stone fitted to its neighbor with such precision that you could not slide a knife blade between them. The world is quiet, safe and ancient. You begin your ascent up the narrow service stairs built into the thick walls, your right hand trailing along the cool stone, feeling the slight dampness that never quite leaves these interior passages. Each step is shallow, worn smooth by decades of inspectors before you, their feet carving gentle depressions into the limestone. Your breathing settles into the rhythm of climbing, steady and measured, while the darkness gradually gives way to thin shafts of light from ventilation slots. The air grows cooler as you rise, carrying the mineral smell of flowing water and the faint green scent of algae that clings to stone. Up and up you climb, counting steps without thinking, your legs remembering the number even when your mind wanders. At the top, you emerge onto the narrow maintenance ledge that runs alongside the Specus, and the sound hits you like a physical presence. The water rushes past in its stone channel, a constant roar that fills your ears and chest, vibrating through the soles of your feet and up into your bones. The world is loud now, but the loudness becomes a kind of silence, unchanging and eternal. You stand for a moment, letting your body adjust to the sensation, watching the dark water surge past with relentless purpose, its surface catching the early light in silver flashes. You begin your inspection, moving slowly along the ledge with your iron rod in hand, the metal cold against your palm. The ledge is perhaps 2 feet wide enough for careful steps, but narrow enough that you keep your left hand always touching the wall. You probe at the joints between stones, feeling for the telltale softness of eroding mortar, listening for changes in the hollow sound when you tap. Calcium deposits have formed along one section like pale frozen waterfalls, and you scrape at them gently with the rod's flattened end, testing their thickness, noting their location in your mind for later recording. The spray from the rushing water mists your face, cool and constant, beating on your eyebrows and dripping from your nose. Every few paces you stop to examine the channel walls more closely, running your fingers along the stone, feeling for cracks that might be invisible in the dim light. The limestone is smooth where the water has polished it, rough where it has not yet been worn. You find a small fissure, perhaps as long as your thumb, and you trace its path with careful attention, determining whether it runs deep or merely marks the surface. The water roars beside you, indifferent to your findings, flowing as it has flowed for decades, carrying the distant mountains to the city below. The world is wet and loud, safe and purposeful. You reach the measuring station, where a calibrated bronze gauge waits, its markings worn but still legible. You kneel carefully on the ledge, your knees pressing into stone, and lower the gauge into the torrent, feeling the water's force try to tear it from your grip. You hold steady, counting slowly, watching the level settle, reading the marks that tell you the flow is normal, adequate, unchanged from yesterday. You withdraw the gauge and shake the water from it, droplets catching the light like scattered jewels before disappearing into the darkness below. Your wax tablet comes out from the leather pouch at your belt, its surface soft enough to take impressions from your bronze stylus. You make your marks slowly, carefully, recording measurements and observations in abbreviated Latin that only other aquarii would understand. The world is documented, safe and measured. The tablet goes back into its pouch, protected from the spray, and you continue your slow journey along the ledge. At midday, you stop at a wider section where the ledge broadens into a small platform, and you sit with your back against sun-warmed stone. Your bread is stale, requiring patient chewing, and you wash it down with water from your flask, the same water that rushes past you in such abundance. Far below, the city spreads out in terracotta and stone, figures moving through the streets like ants, their purposes unknown and unknowable from this height. The wind pushes at you gently, persistently, carrying the smell of distant fields and the warmth of the day. You chew slowly, breathing slowly, watching the world continue its ancient patterns. The afternoon brings you to a section where you must enter an access tunnel, crawling on hands and knees through stone that presses close on all sides. The darkness is complete here, broken only by the faint light behind you that grows fainter with each forward movement. The sound of water is deafening in this confined space, amplified and reflected until it seems to come from inside your own skull. The air is thick with moisture, each breath heavy and wet, coating your lungs with the taste of stone and time. You move forward slowly, your iron rod scraping ahead of you, checking, always checking, for the integrity of the channel that feeds a city. When you finally descend at dusk, your legs trembling with the accumulated tension of a day spent balanced on narrow stone, your ears still ring with phantom water sounds. The world is quiet again, safe and tired. Tomorrow you will climb again. The sun has reached its zenith, casting a pale, unyielding light upon the city as you pause in your inspection of the Aqua Claudia. The roar of the water in the Specus is a constant, soothing companion, vibrating through your bones, a rhythmic lullaby that has accompanied you since dawn. You find a narrow ledge, not much wider than your foot, and perch yourself upon it, the cold stone seeping through the damp wool of your tunic. The wind, a persistent and insistent force, tugs at the hem of your cloak, attempting to pull you off balance, but you are a steady presence, a fixture in this vast, man-made landscape. You unwrap a small bundle of stale bread, the crust brittle and crumbling beneath your fingers. The scent of the dough, once warm and inviting, is now a faint echo, a whisper of its former self. You take a small bite, the bread softening slightly in your mouth, the taste of bland comfort. The city sprawls beneath you, a patchwork of streets and buildings, tiny figures moving like ants, their lives unfolding in the shadows of the colossal arches. You watch them, their movements a dance of predictability, a ballet of the mundane. The world is quiet, save for the water's roar and the wind's persistent hum. The sun beats down upon you, the heat of physical presence, a weight that presses upon your shoulders. The spray from the water in the Specus has long since soaked your tunic, the fabric clinging to your skin, the cold a stark contrast to the sun's warmth. You shift slightly, the stone beneath you rough and unyielding, the pressure a constant, unwavering presence. You take another bite of bread, the taste of it a bland, unremarkable comfort. You reach for your wax tablet, the surface smooth and cool beneath your fingers. The stylus, a thin, delicate instrument, scratches softly as you record your findings. The words are a litany, a mantra of measurements and observations, a testament to the day's work. The tablet fills slowly, the words a steady, unhurried procession. The world is quiet, the waters roar a constant, soothing backdrop. You replace the tablet in your satchel, the movement a slow, deliberate process. The satchel, a simple piece of leatherwork, is worn and soft, the scent of the leather a faint, familiar comfort. You take a deep breath, the air thick with the scent of water and stone, the taste of it a mineral, unyielding flavor. You stand, the movement a slow, careful process, the stone beneath you rough and unyielding. You turn your attention back to the Specus. The waters roar a constant, unyielding presence. The iron rod, a thin, delicate instrument, is cool and smooth beneath your fingers. You probe the channel, the rod a steady, unhurried extension of your arm. The water flows past, a torrential, unyielding force, the sound of it a constant, soothing lullaby. You move slowly, the stone ledge beneath you narrow and unyielding. The wind tugs at your cloak, a persistent, insistent force, attempting to pull you off balance. But you are a steady presence, a fixture in this vast, man-made landscape. The sun beats down upon you, the heat of physical presence, a weight that presses upon your shoulders. You reach another access point, a narrow tunnel that cuts through the thick stone of the aqueduct. The air within is thick with moisture, the scent of it a faint, unyielding presence. The sound of the water is deafening, a roar that fills your ears, a force that vibrates through your bones. You crawl forward, the stone beneath you rough and unyielding, the pressure a constant, unwavering presence. The tunnel is dark, the only light a faint, distant glow from the other end. You move slowly, the sound of the water a constant, unyielding force. The stone beneath you is rough and unyielding, the pressure a constant, unwavering presence. The air is thick with moisture, the scent of it a faint, unyielding presence. You reach the other end of the tunnel, the light a welcome, soothing presence. The sun is beginning to set, the sky a canvas of soft, unyielding colors. The city sprawls beneath you, a patchwork of streets and buildings, tiny figures moving like ants, their lives unfolding in the shadows of the colossal arches. You watch them, their movements a dance of predictability, a ballet of the mundane. You turn your attention back to the Specus. The waters roar a constant, unyielding presence. The iron rod, a thin, delicate instrument, is cool and smooth beneath your fingers. You probe the channel, the rod a steady, unhurried extension of your arm. The water flows past, a torrential, unyielding force, the sound of it a constant, soothing lullaby. The day wears on, the sun a slow, unhurried descent towards the horizon. You move slowly, the stone ledge beneath you narrow and unyielding. The wind tugs at your cloak, a persistent, insistent force, attempting to pull you off balance. But you are a steady presence, a fixture in this vast, man-made landscape. Your legs begin to shake, the tension of the day a constant, unwavering presence. Your ears ring, the sound of the water a deafening, unyielding force. You wonder if tomorrow's inspection will be your last, the thought of faint, unyielding presence. But for now, you continue, a steady, unhurried presence in this vast, man-made landscape. The sun sets, the sky a canvas of soft, unyielding colors. The city sprawls beneath you, a patchwork of streets and buildings, tiny figures moving like ants, their lives unfolding in the shadows of the colossal arches. You watch them, their movements a dance of predictability, a ballet of the mundane. You begin your descent. The narrow surface stares a slow, careful process. The stone beneath you is rough and unyielding, the pressure a constant, unwavering presence. The water's roar fades, a distant, soothing lullaby. The world is quiet, the night a soft, unyielding presence. You reach the bottom, the earth beneath you firm and unyielding. You look back up at the aqueduct, the colossal arches a testament to man's unyielding presence. The night is quiet, the stars a soft, unyielding presence. You turn and walk away, your steps a steady, unhurried procession. The night is quiet, the world a vast, unyielding presence. You are a part of it, a steady, unyielding presence. The day is done, the night a soft, unyielding presence. You are safe and warm, the world a quiet, unyielding presence. You are a part of it, a steady, unyielding presence. The night is quiet, the world a vast, unyielding presence. You are a part of it, a steady, unyielding presence. The night is quiet, the world a vast, unyielding presence. You are a part of it, a steady, unyielding presence. The night is quiet, the world a vast, unyielding presence. You wake before the city breathes, you move in the hush before the clatter, and you climb the narrow spiral of service stairs inside the broad belly of stone arches, your hand skimming the worn curve of limestone that is cool and slightly damp under your palm, smelling faint mold and old rain, and the mineral tang of long-settled water, listening to the distant, patient roar of the channel like a steady animal breathing through the arches. Safe and warm in the repetition of steps and the measured scrape of sandals on stone, the world is quiet, and you count each step in the small, even rhythm of your breath while you think of dough rising at the hearth in slow, invisible puffs, of yeast at work beneath a linen cloth, the soft, faint, yeasty smell that you imagine even here, the long, slow patience of rising bread mirrored by your slow, sure ascent. Your fingers occasionally pausing to rub a flake of lime from the handrail with a thumb in a motion as steady as turning a spindle. The tactile memory of wool spun and rolled into coils while you wait, the wheel of a day turning gently and without hurry. You step out onto the narrow ledge beside the rushing Specus, the stone underfoot slightly slick, the spray tasting faintly of iron on your lips as you extend the cold, rough iron rod and tap along the channel wall, the rod sending a dull metallic vibration up your forearm that you feel in the bones like a distant bell. The smell of wet limestone and green scum rising to meet you with every exhalation. The torrent below a constant, calming thunder that presses at the chest in a steady, even rhythm. And you move your hand again in that same practiced scraping motion as you would smooth a board when carving a notch, repeating the tap and the scrape in patient strokes, assessing the pale ridges of calcite by touch and sight while your mind drifts to the slow turning of a bread loaf beneath a hearth lid, the crust creeping chessboard brown in a moodless, measured way, safe and warm. The world is quiet. You pause often to measure the flow with your bronze gauge, cool and familiar in your palm, the metal ringing faintly when you lift it like a bird against the air, the smell of warmed bronze, and the oily tang of handling tools mingling with the river scent that never leaves you. You press the gauge into the current and feel the steady pull, the instrument's smooth edge against your skin, and then you set it down to smooth a tablet of wax with the back of your stylus, the beeswax soft under the pad of your thumb. Smelling of honey and smoke and the steady warmth of a lamp you half remember lighting at dawn, you draw your marks in slow, certain grooves, the stylus whispering against the wax in little repeated scratches that are as soothing as rain on a wooden roof. And you fold a small flag, painting its color with methodical strokes of pigment, the wet paint smelling of earth and mineral. And then you raise the flag in a practiced signal, the linen flapping with a soft, familiar flutter that blends with the constant roar. The hand motions repeated as many times as the day demands. The world is quiet. Midday comes in a long, unhurried gray, and you perch on a shelf of stone to break the stale bread you carry, the crust giving with a dry, familiar sound, the crumbs dusting your palm like sand that smells faintly of yeast and char and the slow sweetness of grain. You chew in small, even motions, each bite a quiet, mechanical pleasure that steadies you. And while you eat, you wind a stray length of wool around your finger with the same calm repetition you have used to knot flags and tie tools. The wool rubbing smooth and warm against your skin, smelling faintly of lanolin and smoke from the ovens below. And you watch the tiny figures in the streets that look like insects moving through a patterned tapestry, their distant voices, and the scrape of hearts forming a thin, steady hum beneath the water's roar. The wind there at the ledge tugs your tunic and carries the spray that makes your hair cling to your neck in damp threads, the cloth of your tunic sticky with salt and small river scent. And you sit in that slow pause, safe and warm. The world is quiet. A section must be entered that narrows to the size of a man, and you lower yourself, hands first, feeling the cool, slick stone press against your forearms, the air closing like a soft, wet cloth around your face, and filling the nose with the dense smell of moss, iron, and standing water. The sound inside condenses and swells until it is full and loud in a way that could be called deafening if one forgot how soft it truly is, a continuous. Thick thunder that washes past your ears and into your chest, and then becomes a steady, white noise you can lean on. And you begin the slow, repetitive work of scraping with your iron rod. The scrape-scratch rhythm of your hand against stone matching the steady percussion of the tunnel, each scrape producing a small, damp dust that sits on your fingers and smells of lime and algae. You wipe it away with your sleeve in the same practiced motion as smoothing wax or kneading dough, your movements methodical and unhurried. And you feel the wetness bead on your brow and drip onto the rock with a quiet, private plip that is as comforting as a lullaby. The world is quiet. By dusk, you make your descent, the steps greeting your feet with the worn familiarity of old shoes, legs heavy with the subtle, constant tension of balance, and the tiny, repeated adjustments of ankles and toes. Your ears ring with the softened echo of water and hammer and wind, a warm, grass-scented ache behind the skull that is as ordinary as the taste of salt on your tongue. You count each footfall as you lower yourself, and you set down tools in the same slow order you picked them up, wiping the iron rod in long strokes, the cloth taking up mineral and sea spray in a smell that is both oily and green. And as you reach the ground, you pause for a moment to press your palm against a stone pillar that is cool and rough and damping to the skin, thinking, in the practiced, quiet way of someone who records the same measurements day after day, whether tomorrow's inspection will be your last. And the thought lies there like a small pebble in a stream that will be examined tomorrow with the same steady hand. Safe and warm, the world is quiet. You wake to the gray light of a sun that has not yet breached the hills, the wool of your blanket coarse against your cheek, the air in your small room cool and still. You rise, your movements slow and deliberate, pulling on the damp tunic from the day before, the linen stiff with dried mineral spray, smelling of wet stone and old sweat. You break a piece of stale bread, the crust hard against your teeth, the insides soft and flavorless, chewing methodically as you watch the first thin smear of gold appear on the horizon. You gather your tools, the iron rod, cold and heavy in your grip, the wax tablet with its smooth, blank surface, the bronze gauge, its calibration marks worn faint from years of your fingertips. This is the ritual. This is the day. The world is quiet. You approach the Aqua Claudia as the dawn bleeds into a pale blue sky, the colossal arches rising like a petrified their shadows long and deep across the ground. Your hand finds the familiar roughness of the service stairs, a narrow slit in the immense pillar, the steps worn concave by generations of inspectors. You begin to climb. The sound of your own breath, steady and even, mixes with the scuff of your sandals on grit. The stone is cool to the touch, slightly damp, and the air grows cooler as you ascend, the murmur of the waking city falling away beneath you, replaced by a distant, growing roar. You climb for a long time, your focus on the next step, and the next, the monotony of the ascent of familiar meditation. You are safe. You are climbing. You emerge into the Specus, and the world becomes sound and spray. The water, a churning, clear torrent, races through the stone channel beside you. Its roar a constant, vibrating pressure in your ears and your chest. The ledge you stand on is a mere hand-s width, your back pressed against the curved channel wall. Mist hangs in the air, beating on your arms and face. You begin to walk, one foot placed carefully before the other, your gaze fixed on the water-s surface. You probe with the iron rod, its tip scraping against the submerged channel floor, feeling for the gritty buildup of calcium, the smoothness of healthy stone, the unexpected catch of a crack. The tactile information travels up the rod, into your hands, a language of vibration and resistance. You note a deposit near the third arch, a white, crusty accretion like a barnacle on a ship-s hull. You stop, balance your tablet on your knee, and etch a faint mark in the wax with your stylus. The action is slow, requiring precision against the tremor in your hands from the water-s thunder. You work. You record. The water roars. At midday, the sun is high but feels distant, a bright disk in a vast sky. You find a slightly wider section of ledge and sit, your legs dangling over the abyss. The figures in the streets below are ants, moving in silent, slow patterns. You take another piece of bread from the pouch. It is dry. It requires many sips from your water skin to soften it enough to swallow. The wind here is a persistent force, tugging at your tunic, trying to find purchase. It carries the scent of distant bakeries and city dust, but up here, it is mostly the smell of clean, crushed rock and endless water. You watch a single cloud drift, formless and white, from one horizon to the other. You chill. You breathe. The world below is quiet. The afternoon is for the narrow passage. Ahead, the Specus vanishes into the mountainside, and the maintenance tunnel branches off, a black mouth in the stone. You must crawl. The space is tight, your shoulders brushing both walls, the ceiling low enough that you must hunch. The roar of the water becomes something else here. A deafening, all-encompassing thunder that is felt more than heard. A pressure in your teeth and your skull. The air is thick, almost liquid with moisture, cool and smelling profoundly of deep earth and minerals. You inch forward, the stones scraping against your leather pads, your knees aching. Your only light is a small guttering light, its flame fighting the day. You use the rod here too, feeling the ceiling for seepage, the walls for fractures. Every movement is slow, amplified, a monumental effort in the crushing sand. You crawl for an eternity, measured in heartbeats and breaths. You are safe in the stone. You emerge, blinking in the comparative light, your tunic soaked through, your ears ringing with a high, thin silence beneath the roar. Your legs tremble now, a constant, low shiver from hours of tension and careful balance. You perform the final task, the flow measurement. You lower the bronze gauge into the Torrent, holding it steady against the wall, watching the water level rise against the marked lines. You count silently. The flow is normal. It is always normal. You make the final etching on your tablet. The wax is nearly full now, a history of small marks and notations that mean nothing to anyone but you. You signal the repair crew far below with a green flag, its cloth snapping in the wind, a tiny, silent declaration that all is well. The flag is green. The water flows. The descent is a slow unraveling. Each step down the interior stairs is a release. The vibration of the water fading from your bones, the roar diminishing to a murmur, then a memory. Your limbs feel heavy, detached. The coolness of the ascending air is replaced by the warmer, dusk-scented air of the ground. You emerge at the base as dusk settles, a purple haze bleeding into the sky. The arches now cast different shadows, long and deep, merging into one great pool of darkness. You walk away, your footsteps silent on the packed earth. Your ears still ring. Your tunic clings, cold to your back. You do not think of the next inspection, or the last. You think of the wool blanket, coarse against your cheek. You think of the stillness of your room. You walk, and the colossal structure recedes behind you, a silent, stony giant carrying its endless river. The day is done. The world is quiet. You descend into the velvet shadows of the valley.